I'm very excited and very happy to be here attending this great event because there is two concepts that I like very much, machine learning, Africa, and to see both these two concepts together in one event, it's a great pleasure. Today I will talk about Tunisian dialect NLP journey as a low-resourced language, but this is the case for many African languages. So you can think about how to apply what we did here at iCompass for different African languages. So iCompass is a startup based in Tunisia. We focus on languages, but mainly on African and Arabic dialects. As you can see here behind me, there is Africa map. And every day when I come to my office, I see this map and I think about how to create products for African languages and dialects. And this is very important as you know, as a communication, we use language. And if you go back to the Shannon theory, to Chomsky work about languages, it's very important how to manipulate, how to process languages. And as African and Arabic dialects, we are low-resourced languages. So there were only very few work on this. I'm talking here about a population of 1-2 billion Africans and more than 400 million speakers in the Arabic, using Arabic dialects. But unfortunately, this is the case in Tunisia, for instance, but case for many African countries when the official language or the language used to communicate with administration, with companies, is completely different from the native language. And what we do here at iCompass, we create products letting people to communicate with their native languages. So in this presentation, I will focus on Tunisian, but as I said, it's the case of many African dialects. When going back to the state of the art, in Tunisia, we focused mainly on modern standard Arabic, which is completely different from the Tunisian dialect. Researchers did a lot of work on stemming, lemmatization, part of speech, etc., traditional pre-processing text. But this was not efficient because performances were very low. And for all these reasons, we didn't see any product in the market. What about dialects? There were no products about dialects that were used in industry. So what's the difference between Arabic and Tunisian? The spoken Arabic, there is many dialects. We can classify them as more than 12 dialects in different Arabic countries. When it comes to Tunisian dialect, we define it as a dialect featured Arabic vocabulary, but also spiced with words and phrases from Tamazight, French, Turkish, etc. So it's a very mixed, it's a very challenging dialect to work in. So this is talked 12 million speakers in Tunisia. It's close to other Arabic dialects like Algerian or Libyan, but we can see that some words that we use here in Tunisia can have a different meaning in other countries. I will take an example like the word keshfa, which means very beautiful in the Middle East Arabic countries, but in Tunisian dialect that means very ugly. So the meaning is completely different. Another example is the shqiqa. So if I say Andi shqiqa, that means I have a sister. For dialects in Middle East, in Tunisia, that means I have a migraine. So here the meaning, the semantic is completely different, and I feel every time frustrated when I travel and meet other Arabic people. They cannot understand my own dialect. So this is to say that each dialect has its own particularities, specific things, and we should work on each dialect separately. So the Tunisian dialect is not a standard dialect. There is no rules, there is no grammar to apply. And also the way of writing can be, we can define it as a freestyle. So we can write a word in different ways because there is no rules for that. So the state of the art, there was a revolution. And this started in 2013 when we saw the paper of Thomas Mikolov talking about the embedding. And all the researchers started to work on this, this area, which made a revolution. So no need for a heavy pre-processing for the text, but we can have a very, very good results using the embedding techniques. Then 2019 with BERT, the first language model created by BERT and made publicly, we have another revolution with very, very high performances for different languages. When it comes to the Arabic pre-trained language models, in 2021 there were two publicly available language models, RBERT and MARBERT, but these language models are mixed with different dialects, with different Arabic dialects, and including also modern standard Arabic. And in 2021, I compass with a collaboration with Anstadib, and I'm happy to see after my presentation there will be Karim Pir, the CEO of Anstadib, and he will talk more about the language models. So the collaboration between these two startups, we created a language model for the Tunisian dialect. And as far as I know, this is the first time that we see a dialect having its own language model. And this was made publicly, and you can check the GitHub of iCompass or the GitHub of Anstadib to have all the details. So I will talk a little bit about this language model. For instance, the size is not that big compared to other language models, like for English or for other languages. It's something like 60 megabytes, 500K sentences that were collected, filtered, and checked manually to be sure that this is the Tunisian dialect. So here we used the NVIDIA NeMo architecture. We used the BERT-based architecture to train our model. There were something like 110 million parameters, hyperparameters, to train our model. And for the masking, we used two strategies in our masking language modeling. One is word and one is sentence. So we trained our model first by masking the words and then by masking sentences to have a good prediction. Here are the hyperparameters that we used in training our model. These are the best, but you can have more details on our GitHub and different checkpoints that you can use that are available publicly and that you can use. What is important also is that the training took more than 122 hours to train this model. Indeed, these models, they need computer power, but also data. And I will come back later in the conclusion to talk how to create a language model for African dialects. So now that we have a language model, we can fine tune it in different tasks that we can imagine on text, but also on voice products. Here I will talk about three tasks: sentiment analysis, dialect identification, and name-it entity recognition. So for sentiment analysis, we used two available, publicly available datasets, TSAC and TEC. What is important to see here is the size of this datasets. One is about 7K, one is about 3K, very, very small datasets. And that's why it's called a low-resourced language as Tunisian. So we tried different language models, and we can see that the Tunisian language model is performing the best when it comes to sentiment analysis. The second task is dialect identification. As I said, Tunisian dialect is very close to the Algerian dialect, to the Libyan dialect. And the challenge here was to create a system that can identify text from each dialect separately. So we created our own datasets two different data sets. And when we applied the different models, again, the TuneBird, the Tunisian language, performed very high performances. So identifying Tunisian from other dialects, we achieved something like 93% of accuracy. And we went to another challenge. It's only between Tunisian and Algerian dialect, which are very, very close. And even here, the system gave a good performance, 87% of accuracy. The third downstream task is named entity recognition. At iCompass, we created our own dataset because there were no dataset available in this file for the Tunisian dialect. So named entity recognition, where words were labeled with 4 entity types: person, location, organization, and other. And the challenge for the system is to say if a word is related to a person, organization, etc. So here we used the Arabert and Marbert language models, achieving medium performance, let's say about 50% of accuracy, but it's still a good performance when it comes to dialects. So there is something very specific to the Tunisian dialect, that when people write, they don't write with Arabic characters, but they write with Latin characters. And most of the people, especially in social media, they write in Latin characters, featured with numbers. So numbers like 3, 7, 9. And these numbers replace characters that does not exist in the Latin alphabet. So, for instance, the A does not exist in the Latin characters. That's why Tunisians, they use a number instead of a character. So here an example of Tunisian using Latin characters that we called Tunisi. And we defined Tunisi at iCompass as the dialect featured Arabic vocabulary, spiced with words and phrases from Amazigh French, but using the Latin-based alphabet. So at the left side, the Latin Tunisian, this is the way we write it in social media. Then we have the Arabic Tunisian with Arabic alphabet, and the translation to French and English. Another specificity of the Tunisian dialect is that it's a switch language. So in the same sentence, we can find Tunisian words, but also French or English or Italian words. And that make it the Tunisian dialect processing more challenging. So as you see in this example, we have El Konna Maag, etc. And at the end, there is a part, it's French, Notre Président. And here, it's make it more challenging for the NLP part. So for this reason, we created the first, at iCompass, we created the first Tunisi dataset last year, 2020. The size was 10K commands in Tunisia. These commands were annotated manually to be used for sentiment analysis. So the performances was quite okay, 78% for the CNN when using the MBERT, the multilingual BERT language model. But still, this dataset is a small one. So we went for a bigger, we created a bigger dataset. This dataset is about 100K sentences. And it's the first time that we see something from this size. As I told, the state of the art, all the data sets, what we can find are very, very small. They go from 7K to 10K maximum. This is what is used, that researchers in Tunisia used. But at iCompass, we created this new data set with 100K, and we made it publicly available for the community, researchers, startups to be used, and to encourage people to work on NLP, especially when it comes to machine learning and deep learning. That they are very data hungry. And it's very important to have big size data sets. Again, the performances were better with this data set. So we are at something like 82% of accuracy. We participated with this data set in a competition, the Zindi competition. We saw many people coming from different parts of the world. There were more than 740 participants from different countries, and it was very nice competition. And to see people interested in the Tunisian dialect and working on Tunisian dialect make us happy. And I think basically the big size of the data set make people more encouraged to work on this. Then we moved to some African dialects. Here I will present one African dialect called the Bambara language. And we created the first data set in this language, in this dialect. So Bambara is widely used in different countries in Africa. And it's a native language that people use every day when they go to shop or they talk between them. So we created this first data set of Bambara. We started again with a small one to check our technique and our approach, our pipeline. Then we augmented the size of the data set to reach 3K sentences. All the sentences were manually annotated. And we applied different approaches to check which one is the best to achieve the best performances. And for instance, here, the VLSTM was the best model to apply for this language. And this was the first time that we see a dataset, a language dialect-based dataset, Bambara, and publicly available, and with all the checkpoints that can be used from different researchers or companies in Africa. So as a takeaway, I would say that language models are very promising for African languages. We don't need to have a heavy pre-processing. But do we need huge data sets? In theory, yes, more we have data sets, more we have data, the performances will be good. But we showed with our Tunebird language model that even with the small data set and creating a language model for a very specific dialect can achieve better than the existing language models that are publicly available. So small data set, good quality data can be a good starting point to create products dedicated to the African languages and African dialects. But I will join the previous presentations to say still a lot to do in Africa, especially in the NLP field. We are just at the beginning. It's a revolution, and that's why I'm happy to see that a big event like this, connecting machine learning with Africa, is very gives us a lot of hope about the future of NLP and machine learning in Africa. But how we can achieve this? This can be achieved through the synergy, through collaboration in Africa. We did a collaboration with as I said, with Unstudy, but collaboration, different startups collaborating together in Africa. This is I think this is the path that we should take to achieve great performances. So all the references that I used are here. Thank you for attending my presentations. Feel free to contact us for collaboration, to get the data, to get the language models, to get the checkpoints. We are open to any kind of collaboration with African startups or African universities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadded. Really nice presentation again. And I agree with you that our event should be the platform or one enabler and catalyst to make these collaboration happen. I encourage you to connect also with Thiro, the previous speaker. You'll be available on the chat. You work on similar topics, so I think that there are synergies to be exploited. I also don't have too much time, so I will ask one question from the audience, but I again encourage you to go to the Q&A section and interact with the audience. So we have a question from Sahar asking if you have thought of offering your product to Facebook or Twitter or social media in general in order to fight bullying on social media. So what can you tell about this?
Yeah, at Compass we work on different problems related to text, but also to the voice. For instance, we work on misinformation, on fake news, misogyny, etc. It's still the beginning. Still offering products with high performance, but the path is still very long. Collaboration or offering, I don't know which word to use in this case with Facebook or Google, but we are open to any kind of collaboration.